100 people do fantastic life-transforming changes with their body. And Jeff, we're really excited about this because I'm always confused about dieting. So, what can you tell us about that tonight?
Well, Mike, I'm glad to have everybody here tonight. And tonight, the topic is your diet always either twigs and berries or buffet time? And I'm going to totally get into that tonight. I'm going to cover that completely. Just to give you a quick heads up, what I mean by that is someone who's eating a twigs and berries diet, thinking of someone that eats like a sparrow, that is always on a famine diet, that is always just eating the bare minimum. And when I speak of a buffet time, I'm just speaking of binging, going crazy with your food. So that's what I'm speaking of when I talk about that. So let's move on right here. Let's keep it going. So also, like I said, call it the feast or famine diet. And this is a very dangerous problem. Dangerous for a number of reasons, which I'll get to in a minute. But it also happens the other way around. What does that mean? What I mean is people usually famine first. They don't eat enough first. And that leads to a feast. That leads to the binging. So the dangerous problems from eating twigs and berries and eating basically a famine diet is some of the biggest, most common negative aspects are it really slows down your metabolism tremendously. Number two is you actually can force your body to store body fat, store stubborn body fat. And your body usually eats up and burns muscle tissue for fuel when you do this. It also leads to binging, which we're going to talk about even more. And lastly, when you're constantly eating twigs and berries in hopes to get leaner and lose weight, you break down your immune system. And all that means is that you just get sick more often. Now, to the right here is one of my clients, a lady that made a really good transformation, a great transformation actually. These are her final photos after a 7-week eating program. And she did great, and she's got $3, which she's one of my clients too. So, moving on, a lot of people say, well, what are your credentials? What have you accomplished? So who am I? What have I done? Well, I like to list three things, three very basic things. Number one, over 100 successful client transformations, and I'm also a published writer, over 25 articles published, and also I'm a former scholarship collegiate athlete and strength coach. And I had to plug this photo in here. It's one of my favorite photos from playing ball. This is back from 1998. Here I am in the middle, right here, number 97. And this photo's from Florida State game. This is back when Florida State was actually really good, and we actually beat them 24-7 in this game. And one other thing I didn't list on here is that I was as heavy as 270 pounds when I played ball, and right now I'm 212 to 214 year round, 6 to 7% body fat. So I didn't list that on here, but I think practicing what you preach year round is really important for someone that's leading others in the right direction nutritionally. So we'll keep moving forward. Why do people feast or famine? Well, there's a number of reasons, but we're going to start with two. Number one, well, we know it's unhealthy. We know that. It's obviously unhealthy. What does the prison mentality mean? That means that people think that they have to be, in their own mind, in a prison. They have to be in agony. They have to be in discomfort. They have to be trapped in a very restrictive diet in order to be successful. You're thinking, no way. No, they don't. Yes, they do. A lot of people think they have to, there's not many foods they can eat. There's not many, there's great restrictions and burdens on what they're allowed to do. And we're just going to totally blow that out of the water tonight. So let's keep moving forward here. So why do people famine? Let's talk about this some more. Well, one of the reasons people famine is they live for that cheat meal. I'll never forget, I think it was back in 2002, and I was 2 years ago. I was working with a trainer in LA Fitness, and this woman walk up to me and she said, "Well, are cheat meals okay?" Or I love my cheat meals so much. I just listened to her, and she said, "You know, I I just look forward to it all week, and I'll just go through a whole box of granola cereal." I just kind of listened. I just thought it was kind of weird, but looking back on that, that's just one example of hundreds I've heard over the years. And when you look forward to a cheat meal that much once a week, then what that tells me is you're not eating enough your other meals. There's some deep, compelling reason that makes you love that cheat meal. And another reason, number two here, and we're going to just rip this to shreds. But we're going to, just go over this left and right from here on out. People think hunger equals fat loss. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing at all could be further from the truth. People think they have to be starving. They have to have hunger pain. They have to be in discomfort in order to burn fat. And the opposite of that is actually true. So, what are some culprits of the famine? What are some culprits of that? Well, what I call the Cinderella effect. Now I've talked about this before, so just bear with me. We've all heard the nursery rhyme of Cinderella, and I think as the nursery rhyme goes, when the clock struck midnight, I think it was her carriage, I think it was, or her stagecoach, whatever it was, turned to a pumpkin, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Stagecoach.
Yeah, the stroke of midnight. Well, you're thinking, what does it have to do with people following the twigs and berry famine diet? I'll tell you. People think that when this ties into the same belief that don't eat late at night, don't eat after 8, don't eat after 7, don't eat after 9, that the Cinderella effect means that some people think that if they eat a chicken breast and an apple at 9 o'clock, it'll turn to fat, just as the stagecoach turned to a pumpkin. Okay, so, and I'm going to tie into that more in a minute, but I just wanted to refresh everyone's memory. They also think food is the enemy. That's why they eat such tiny portions and eat such twigs and berries, because food is the enemy. Now, this is big here. Number 3, evil FOF. Everybody knows my favorite acronym when it comes to nutrition and balanced eating. FOF, which I've said stands for focus on food. Well, guess what? There's an evil FOF too. And it stands for fear of food. Believe me, a lot of people have fear of food. And it's true. And once again, people believe they must be hungry to lose weight. So, some culprits of binging. People oftentimes, when they've eaten a twigs and berries, starvation, famine diet, they don't think that's starvation diet. They don't think it's a famine diet. They don't really realize that there are 4 or 5 tiny meals a day with super low calories are twigs and berries. So they think that's just normal. That's what the fitness models eat. That's what the hot girls on the cover of Out of Shape magazine and Carbon Dioxide magazine eat. That's what all the girls on the bikini girls on the internet eat that we see left and right. And they get very frustrated with themselves. I've had this. I've known women that have confided in me with this, and they're frustrated in their mind with their inability to follow their twigs and berries diet. And it leads to self-hate. They hate themselves. I'm a loser. So hang with me now. Watch this. They literally want to teach themselves a lesson by gorging themselves with filthy foods. When they binge, they go all out. It's not one little cup of ice cream or whatever. It's all out assault. Because they think if they punish themselves bad enough for straying from their twigs and berries diet, they'll learn their lesson. It never works. Doing that can be very costly. So, it's an all or nothing mentality. It's, well, if I can't follow twigs and berries diet forever, then I'm a loser. I'm destined to look like this forever. I'm destined. I'll never be really lean. And that has killed so many people. That has ruined the bodies and the emotional psyche and the self-image of so many, especially women. Men too, but I think more so women. And what does over-enthusiasm mean? This is crucial. This is how, I'm going to tell you how over-enthusiasm ties in tremendously to the whole feast and famine binging cycle. Overenthusiasm refers to, let's say someone has, I don't know, gone to the beach in 4 weeks, or they got a high school reunion in 6 weeks, or they're, summer is 2 weeks away, well, whatever. They have you know, several weeks, maybe months, where they need to get in shape. Maybe it's not even a deadline, but the overenthusiasm refers to coming out of the gate, getting started back in the gym, going all out. Just waking up at 6 a.m., doing 45-minute walk on the treadmill, then spinning class at night, and a weightlifting session somewhere in between. And then just eating, twigs and berries all day. A little protein shake with, a couple of almonds, and then, a chicken breast with a little bit of oatmeal, and just really super, super low calorie twigs and berry type meals throughout the day. Where do you go from there? What's next? If you're popping 3 fat-burning thermogenic capsules day one and doing double day long duration cardios, and then weightlifting too, what's next? Where do you go from there? You can't do more than that. Where do you go? So that's the thing. Over enthusiasm, you always want to start off on your program, on your routine, with something left at the sleeve, with something more in the tank. You want to always be able to progress. You don't want to hit the wall early on. So over enthusiasm, so you come out. I've known some women that wake up and, all of a sudden, on their cutting diet or show prep diet, and do 2 thermos the first day, an hour on the treadmill, workout, weight room, weight training, and then into the night they're starving. They're ravenously hungry. So, and then lack of knowledge, just not. Emotion is definitely biggest in this. Emotion is what drives this, and the lack of knowledge is definitely a culprit too. So, and
Jeff, you make a very good point about the emotional thing. We all want to succeed so badly. We want to do everything we can to succeed. Sometimes we actually overdo what our body can actually, should do. I find myself guilty of that as well as I know a ton of other people that think the same way. So you're bringing up a lot of excellent points.
You're right. And I really wanted to. I'm glad you mentioned that. I really wanted to put this in front of folks because I've known people that were trainers. I've known several girls that were trainers themselves and worked with some online, real fancy schmancy guru that, trained bunches of bigger fitness girls or whatnot. And these are girls that, got all the obligatory certifications, et cetera, that are trainers themselves, but don't have a clue what they're doing. And they're leading other people. So I guess the point I'm making is that just because you might have some foundation of knowledge, you're still susceptible to this. And getting back to the header real quick, and I'll move on, you want to find a middle ground. And these are culprits of it. So, and these are ways that people compensate for this vicious cycle. So we'll keep moving here. The morning after, and this is the vicious cycle. Let me talk about what the morning after means. The morning after is, most people binge. They don't binge in the morning. They don't binge in the afternoon. They binge at night because that's when the severe caloric deficit of all the copious cardio they've been doing, all the spinning classes, all the weight training, that's when it catches up with them. And so they binge on whatever they binge on, cake, ice cream, banana bread, who knows. And they wake up the next morning and it hits them. They're going to teach their bodies a lesson. They're going to get on the treadmill. First off, they're going to wake up and they're going to pop about 3 fat burning pills. Okay, and they're going to hop on the treadmill or go to spinning class on a fasted state, empty stomach, and burn themselves to a crisp. Then the really anxious ones are going to go do weightlifting. Going to go do some superset burnouts. What's it called? Circuit training, yada yada, et cetera, in their gym or their fitness class after their morning run, and after they're still on an empty stomach. So by the time 7, 8 a.m. rolls around, they're in a severe caloric deficit. But they're doing that because in their minds, that wipes away the night before. That cleanses them from their naughty binging the night before, from their pernicious overeating the night before. Isn't that sad? It is. And the workout lights the fuse. What does that mean? That means that early morning session on the treadmill, or or the spinning class, or whatever they might be doing to compensate or cleanse themselves or make up for the pernicious binge the night before. That's what lights the fuse. That's what triggers the next caloric deficit, severe deficit, which will lead to their next binge a couple nights later. And they're just digging their own grave. You're digging your own grave when you do that, and it's so sad. It's so sad. So now hang with me here for a minute. This is a big deal. Let me back up a minute. Okay. The biggest training mistake that I see when it comes to people that binge and is trying to build stamina endurance while not in contest or photo shoot prep. What does that mean? Well, let's talk about that for a minute.
Jeff, 1 second, please. Can everyone hear Jeff pretty well? Sorry about this, Jeff. Can everyone hear Jeff pretty well, or was he echoing?
Giselle says yes.
Sometimes getting an echo. Okay, echoing. Okay. Jeff, try it again.
I'll just try to speak a little bit slower and speak closer to the mic and see if that helps. Okay. Anyway, so follow me now. Follow me on this. Follow me best you can on this. When you're following oftentimes people in their off season, when they're not in a photo shoot prep, or let's forget about competitors for a minute. Let's just think about the general folks that want to maintain a lean figure, lean physique year round. The worst thing they can do is join a running group, spinning class, and do that as a hobby, and do that as a leverage to get leaner. Okay, and here's why. Oftentimes, when you do these running classes or chronic spinning classes or running groups, what happens is it burns a lot of fuel, it burns a lot of calories, and it increases your appetite. And you eat more food. And what happens is, when you eat a lot more food, you end up gaining more fat. Okay? And it elicits more hunger. And oftentimes the food you eat isn't always healthy food. So, follow me now, this is big. Your cardiovascular endurance is improving, but your body fat is going up. No, I didn't say you're getting obese, but you're gaining body fat while your aerobic endurance is improving. That is a horrible place to be, because when your aerobic endurance, your cardiovascular endurance is very efficient, and you're gaining fat, how do you lower your fat? If you're able to run 5 miles for 4 or 5 days a week, what do you do for fat loss? How do you stimulate your aerobic system, your anaerobic system? How do you stimulate your cardiovascular system? So now you've gained fat, but you've made an efficient aerobic system. One of the worst things, I knew a girl in figure competitions a few years ago, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to join a running group this off season." I'm thinking, that's the worst thing you can do. You're going to improve your cardiovascular activity, and you're going to gain fat. Then when you have to get lean again, what are you going to do? Yeah, you can clean your diet up some, but you're going to, how do you stimulate your lungs and heart and your aerobic system? So anyway, that's a huge mistake. And it's a huge mistake because you're training for endurance, spinning classes, running groups, when aesthetics is your goal. And now I can hear them right now, the obligatory, oh, but I want to be healthy. Well, this may come with a newsflash for you, but when you're gaining fat, you're not getting healthy. When you're gaining body fat, you're not getting healthy. Okay? And there's far more ways to more effectively recruit the cardiovascular system through chronic long duration running and spinning class. Okay? And I hope that made sense. Just remember what your goals are. and it's hard to serve two masters. And just because you have awesome aerobic cardiovascular conditioning doesn't mean your body composition will follow. Okay, let's move on from that. So why don't people eat more healthy food? And I talked about this a minute ago, and I'm going to talk about it again. It's the new FOF, the evil doppelganger, the evil twin of the good FOF. The good FOF stands for what? Focus on food. Let that be your chief tool, your chief instrument. Well, the new FOF, the evil FOF, is fear of food. People don't eat more healthy food because they have a fear of food, of large amounts of food. I didn't say bad food. Large amounts of healthy food. Size scares people. You know, two little small brownies the size of a deck of cards is, people have no problem eating that because it's a small little treat. Hershey Kisses are those little mini bite, little candy bar mini bites we've all seen, and 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 then the high volume. So think about this: a big old sweet potato and a chicken breast doesn't have many calories, but it's a lot of food, and a high volume of food in the mind of a lot of people equals weight gain. What they're neglecting to realize is that it's the type of food that will ultimately determine the weight gain or the fat gain. And you need a lot of food to stimulate your metabolism. So, a lot of the right kind of food, let me clarify that. So, I just wanted to make that point, that don't be scared to eat large amounts of healthy food. So, let's move on with this. Why do you have cravings? Or more appropriately, what causes the cravings that lead to binging? Well, let's talk about this for a minute. The reason you're having cravings in your twigs and berries diet, other than the fact you're eating a twigs and berries diet, is the fact that you're not eating healthy food. Whoa, what do you mean? Chicken breasts are healthy? Well, a chicken breast in and of itself is a healthy food, I agree. Green beans are healthy, and I agree. Green beans in and of themselves, that's a healthy food, sure. Okay, but just chicken, just green beans, just oatmeal, just apples, and just peanut butter, even if it's natural peanut butter, those are all healthy foods. But they're not a part of they do not make up, those foods themselves do not make up the entire picture of a healthy diet. Okay? So, a lot of people think they're eating healthy, and they might be, but they're not eating completely healthy, or they're not eating a complete balanced diet, okay? And they're not eating enough healthy food. So you're not eating healthy food, and the healthy food you are eating, you're not eating enough of it. So I want to touch on, I'm going to touch on this more in a minute.
Jeff, I have one quick question for you, because I've struggled with exactly what you're saying before in the past. I think just about everyone has done this. I'm sure all of you have suffered from the same thing, I'm sure. This fear. What do you find to be the best help you can give us, the best advice? If you're going to give them a tip on how to overcome
That's a good
this
question, and my answer to that would simply be, it's easier to overcome something when you understand it, and when you understand the root causes, and you understand why it's bad. So that's the point of this webinar, is to explain why it's bad and how, and the ins and outs, which is what I'm trying to do. I guess that's the best reason I can give. Once people fear what they don't understand. And the first step is explaining and understanding the fear. And if I can just give people, a handful of bullet points and explain to them why it's bad, why it's, if I can relate to them. Like, Michael, you just said, I see where you're coming from. I lived that. It rang a bell, it touched a nerve, whatever you said. That's how you get it to resonate.
Yeah, definitely. I struggled with that for many years.
Yeah, I mean, it's I even did a little bit back, I think.
See, I used to run a lot, and I could never. What I was saying was, I used to run a lot, Jeff. I used to run a ton, and you're right. There's no place left to go. I mean, you're running and running and running, and there's no next level to get to, and you can't lose the weight. And yet, I was running, with no exaggeration, 5 to 8 miles a day. So
I'm glad you brought that up, just to reinforce the point. That's true. So people say, how do I break out of it? And I'm actually gonna go over that more as we move on in the webinar. But the first step is you got to cut back on what you're doing, all the high volume running, or spinning class, whatever it is you're doing, and you got to eat more food. And I guarantee you, Michael, you probably, in fact, I'd be willing to bet you weren't eating a healthy, balanced diet, and you weren't eating enough the healthy right foods. And here's a good example. This little picture in the corner here, I have it's like a peanut butter smooth operator, like a smoothie mix, and a banana. Well, that's not good for fat loss. I don't even know what's in this smooth operator smoothie peanut butter mix, but it's probably high sugar. It's probably got minimal protein, and well, we know it's a processed refined food. And a banana isn't bad for you, but it's not. Bananas are very, very rich in carbs, and it's a high calorie fruit. Those aren't what you want to eat for fat loss, but they will fuel you up for a long run. So we could talk about this forever, but let me keep moving here. Why not binge on healthy food? Why do people always binge on junk food? I mean, no one binges on sweet potatoes and wild salmon and lean grass-fed beef and chicken breast and brown eggs. Why don't people do that? They always binge on junk food. I'll tell you why. This is huge, because it's impossible. Let me repeat that. Binging on healthy food is impossible, and I'm going to explain why. And so hang with me now. Hang with me. I want you to hang with me on this and pay attention.
Nick,
well,
said it
the
tastes
healthy,
better.
well,
Thank you, Nick.
and I'm going to actually address that in a minute. He makes a somewhat legitimate point, which I'm going to address. But binge on the healthy food, people don't do it because it's impossible. Here's why it's impossible. When you're nourished, when you get nourished from adequate amounts of healthy, nutritious foods, okay, you don't have cravings, and it satisfies you. If you don't have cravings, then you're going to be satisfied. So if you eat a moderate amount, this is a great meal here. It's like a piece of wild salmon and a few strawberries and looks like raspberries on a salad. I mean that's, throw a little bit of olive oil on there, and I mean that's going to wipe out any cravings you have, because it's a nutrient-rich, healthy, fat-rich meal. Now this is the first half. So I just explained that when you're well nourished, keyword being nourished, you're not going to have cravings because it satisfies you. Now let's keep moving. Watch this. Go back. Okay. Why don't junk food binges kill cravings? I mean, why are people able to mow through 8 slices of pizza, a box of donuts, and 3 candy bars? How can any human being eat that? We don't see people eating, a lean grass-fed beef with a sweet potato and a salad with olive oil and diced up tomatoes and wild salmon. We don't see people eating 8 plates of that, but you can mow through pizza and donuts. Here's why. Junk food binges, they'll fill you up, but they don't kill cravings. Here's why. Look at this young lady here in this photo. It's safe to say she is well fed. I think we can agree she's very well fed. This is what she eats in a given day, all this junk food. She's well fed, but she's poorly nourished. Okay? And when you're poorly nourished, here's why you're full, but you can still keep eating junk, whereas you couldn't keep eating healthy food. Watch now. Bear with me on this. Watch this. When you're stuffed, but your body still craves junk food when you've been eating tons of junk food, and your body allows you to eat. Why does your body allow you to eat more? Because, watch this, your brain is begging for more nourishment. She's eating her ass off. She's eating like crazy, tons of calories. The calories aren't cutting it. Look at this garbage. Chips, chocolate muffins, Snickers bars, Mars bars, soda, pizza. Her brain's begging her for nourishment, nutrients, and she's not getting it from the junk. So her body's sending signals to her brain to eat more food. We have no nourishment here. The calories aren't the problem. We got tons of calories, but they're not satisfying the hunger. This woman, you give her a plate of fresh wild salmon on olive oil and tomato and strawberries and salad, it will fill her right up because she'd be nourished. Does that make sense to you? Is this okay? I get it now. I get it. Calories fill you up. Junk food calories fill you up and make you fat. They don't solve the cravings. That's why people binge on junk food like crazy. It fills you up, but it doesn't satisfy you. Talk to me. Does that make sense? It's, that's
You know, it's common sense, but it's not very common. That's the problem. I even think that picture's a little misleading. I don't think she really eats that food on the top right.
I did some research and got this, and it's what she eats in a given day. And you're right. I mean, if I don't want to get too off topic, but if she were to eat, what is that? At least 2 apples, a couple of oranges, a banana. That has a lot of fiber, and that would probably knock out literally a third of the junk food. So I bet you're right. I mean, that's probably in here. In fact, that might even be like a wax apple or wax fruit, or you've all seen that before. Who knows? But maybe that's just a side prop. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. But let's keep moving. So what can we do to beat the binge? What kind of meal can we create to beat the binge? Well, you want nutritious foods, okay? And what are some nutritious foods? Well, you want a protein source, but you want carbs and you want fat too. And now some folks don't do well with complex carbs, and that's fine. We want fibrous, cruciferous, multicolored, leafy green, and multicolored carbohydrates, which I just call fibrous carbs, or leafy green vegetables, in other words, and a high volume of them. And the ones you use is thermogenic foods. And this is just a little picture of a little salad. It looks like chicken on top. And this, or the previous one a few slides before, with the wild salmon on the strawberry, or the salad with strawberries, would be excellent too. So a very, a salad like this, add a couple tablespoons of olive oil with a bunch of peppers and diced up cucumbers, and add some pepper on top, and a little bit of salt and season if you want, and dice up some tomatoes and put some lemon juice on it, and you got a diced up looks like a chicken breast right there. But be sure to add some fat to it. Add a half an avocado, add a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and that will knock out, that will satisfy those cravings. It will satisfy those cravings. So yeah.
Now, why the fat, Chef?
Well,
why the
fat, number one, fat is a
satisfier.
satisfier.
A lot of people are
number two, and I talked about this on a previous webinar, but I need to mention this again. Back in, and I know this because of I'd say probably 95, 92, 95, not all, but 95% of all the evaluations my clients fill out. And I ask them to list of foods, list a current meal plan, what they currently eat on a given day. And they're all woefully lacking healthy fats. They load up on protein powders. They eat, some eat high carbs, but they're just void of fats. A few nuts here and there. Let's have some avocado. Let's have some olive oil. Let's have some Brazil nuts. Let's have some macadamia nuts. Let's have some wild salmon, which is loaded full of omega-3 fatty acids. Let's have some egg yolks. Let's have some organic grass-fed beef or bison. Let's have some of that. A little, and fat also has 9 calories per gram, whereas protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram. So fat has more calories per gram, and I don't like to get big into the whole calorie thing, but it's more calorie dense and it's a satisfier, and it really adds satiety. When you eat fats with protein and a lot of fibrous leafy green, not a can of green beans, guys. I'm talking like a salad like this, loaded full of raw spinach leaves and diced up lettuce and maybe zucchini and peppers and tomatoes. That, added with the fat, tremendously aids satiety. The problem is that people don't eat enough fat. So anyway, that's really why fat is so important. Now, this is how we beat the binge through eating. Okay, these are some good tips. What's the solution to the training aspect? If you're going double cardios a day, a run in the morning, spinning class at night, weights in the middle of the day, where do you go from there? 3 classes a day? 2 spinning classes at night, a kickboxing class in the morning, and a 2-mile run at lunch, then immediately do a CrossFit class? I mean, where do you go from there? You got to go backwards. And, either 2 or 3 lifting times per week. I've seen a lot of people, 2 full-body lifting sessions a week. You can do the correct exercises. Are very effective. I didn't link it here, but on my website, in my article section, it's called Kiss the Bodybuilding Workouts Goodbye. and it's a 3-day-a-week lifting, full body, okay, with two 50-minute metabolic sessions in there. At the end of this presentation, go there and check it out and follow it. It's men, women, adults, people can still follow it. And anyway, so those are some key things to training. Sometimes we've heard the old expression. Sometimes you got to go Sometimes you got to go one step backwards in order to go 2 steps forward. Okay, and for folks that are, if you're running like crazy and you got the stubborn body fat, you're doing crazy cardio and you're eating like twigs and berries, I'm telling you how to fix that. How to get your body into fat burning mode. How to get your body out of that rut. And you can go from 6 training session workouts a week down to 3 a week. Yeah, they're more effective, and you do better exercises, and they're planned out better, and the program design is better. I don't want to get too off topic, but just 1 or 2 more points. Most people don't have a clue about proper program design. They train off emotion, just like they eat off emotion. So anyway, that's the solution to the training aspect that leads to binging. So
well, I have a question here from Matt. Matt's wondering if it's okay for workout.
My answer to Matt would be,
what about workout?
You can still do that workout. Kiss the bodybuilding workouts goodbye. I mean, the point of lifting weights is to build muscle. You don't lift weights to burn muscle. You lift weights to build muscle. So muscle building, yeah, this is for muscle building. It's not for muscle wasting. This is for muscle building. But there's any training program, and I got 3 training programs that are in my articles that anybody can go and follow if they want. I got videos and descriptions and everything. But they're all for muscle building. Does that mean you're going to turn into the next Mr. Olympia? No. Does that mean you're going to have 18-inch biceps by tomorrow? No, of course not. Does that mean you're going to need your own zip code? You're going to be so huge with muscle? Of course not. But the goal of weightlifting is to build muscle. So all these programs build muscle. The key with that, though, I don't want to get off topic with this, but the key to that is simply changing your routine. Obviously, some programs are better for building muscle than others. I agree with that. But this program is great for building muscle, too. So let's kiss the binge goodbye. Let's hear some tips here. Let's look at some key bullet points. How do we kiss the binge goodbye? I want fats or carbs with every meal. I know you guys are going to get your protein in. I know you're going to get your protein in. You don't have a problem with getting your protein in. Okay? It's the fats and carbs I'm worried about. Get those in. All right? Now follow me on this. 1 day a week. I don't care if it's your high, either a high, if you're doing 3 total body training sessions a week, then on whichever one of those days has the highest reps, has the most reps, that's when you'll have, the higher carb day. If you're doing like body part splits, like 2 days a week, then whichever day you do lower body, whichever day you train legs, that would be the day you have a higher carb day. To really spike your metabolism and to really annihilate, the cravings for a binge. The cravings for a binge meal, cheat meal. Now, I don't call it a cheat meal. And I don't even like the word, there's some popular buzzword now called a refeed. That makes no sense. Okay? You don't ever want to refeed. You should always be feeding yourself. I call it, quite simply, a high carb day. A lot of my clients, female clients, typically ones, most all of them, I'll give them a, usually first meal of the day on their high rep day, I'm giving them a cup of oatmeal. Cup of oatmeal with some diced up peaches, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries on top. Perfect. That's not going to make you fat. I gotta pull this point in here. I'll never forget. I had someone signed up with me online a couple years ago, and through a friend, and the woman signed up, and her friend was like, "Oh well," she told me she was scared of the cup of oatmeal, and she showed the program to her trainer, And the trainer said, oh, you don't need a full cup of oatmeal. So you have trainers out there that don't understand that when you're eating healthy, moderate amounts of food all week, and you're training hard, you're going to, and you have a low carb day a couple days of the week, you're going to need a higher carb day. You're going to need that cup of oats. Don't be scared of it. You need it. Okay? You don't need a full refeed. You don't need a full cheat meal, but you need to slightly, you need to jack up your carbs one day of the week. And don't go into it blindly. Well, I'll just eat till I'm full. No. Give yourself, if you typically eat a half cup of oats, then add an extra half cup, which would make it one full cup. Throw some fruit on top, and then eat whatever you would normally eat for the rest of the day. Or go ahead and add an additional full cup. So if you eat a half cup of oats, go ahead and have 1.5 cup oats. You're not going to get fat one day of the week off an extra cup of oatmeal. It's funny. I still get questions. Go ahead. Well, let me just say, I don't know anybody who cooks oatmeal and measures it.
One cup of cooked
I don't
oatmeal
even
or
think that's
dry oatmeal?
possible. I don't know if that's possible. If you look on a container of oatmeal, it's always dry. You measure a dry half cup and you cook it. You don't cook the whole thing of oatmeal and just hope it comes down to a half cup. So, and just to add to this, it's the exact opposite. And I'm getting off topic here, but it's the exact opposite for rice. People are like, well, what's a cup of brown rice? Is that cooked? Well, brown rice, it's typical. You cook the whole bag of rice usually, or half a bag. Cook it, then you measure it out. But not with oatmeal. So anyway, I get that question. That's actually on my FAQ page. But anyway, so look, don't go another day getting bullied around by cravings and beaten to a pulp by binges. Finding the solution. Overcome your fear of food. You've been showed the right way. You've been pointed in the right direction. Now overcome it. I've explained to you how to overcome it. That's step number 1. Okay? Step number 2, find someone you trust. Let me ask you this. How many of you here have been trying to lose stubborn body fat on your own? I already know the answer. You read articles? You read books? Are you still stuck in the same place? Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because you can't do it on your own. A clock can't fix itself. A car can't repair itself. On the same token, you need a coach with an effective track record to lead you